So I noticed your floor here. Tell me about the floor.
Well, the floor, I tried everything. There was carpet glued to the wood floor, and I don't like sanding and all that stuff. And I kept doing stuff. I put this concrete finish on top of it, and then I totally messed that up because I did the walls. The walls before, if you look over here, were like this.
Yeah.
And they were just really dingy, and I could have torn them out, but I'm like, oh, I'll just put plaster and concrete on top of them so that they look, because this house is from 1915, so that they look like 1915, somewhat appropriate if a crazy man had come in. And there's that in there.
Oh, okay.
See that?
Yeah, I do see that. Yeah.
Okay, so then this will happen. Not as impressive as I thought it might be, but it's still okay. Now I'm just gonna get the full on.
Sure.
That's got some really great color in there. And so then with the floor, I try it at first I just had paint, just kind of. This was my studio where I would paint, and so you've got paint all over here, paint here, paint there from being my paint studio. And I thought, oh, it'll just be gloppy paint, but it always looked really dingy and dirty and not very nice. And so I tried everything, and I was finally like, screw it. I'm just gonna do an abstract on the floor.
The house is your canvas.
Yeah, exactly. And that was one of the reasons I moved into this house. It was totally abandoned when I bought it, and I just wanted something where no one had come in and put in like cheap tile or stuff that I'd feel a little guilty about ripping out because it'd just been put in. And so I don't think this house had been touched since, I think they'd done some bad remodeling in like the 50s and 60s.
I want to swing the camera around here and show this real quick. It's lit up well enough now so that I can see it. Can you tell me what that is?
Yeah, that is an abstract that there was, that wall I wasn't really happy with. I'd used it, it was another paint studio place, and it had splatters all over it, and I finally decided I'm just gonna really sloppily paint it white and then do a black and white abstract.
Yeah.
And I just, like my painting is total stream of consciousness, full contact. I usually injure myself. My last injury, I don't know if I can pull my pants up far enough, but because it's really not even that impressive. That was my last injury from falling.
No, I'm surprised you made it out alive.
Yeah, I don't know why I said that.
No, it's okay. Tell me about the cage. What'd you call this?
Okay, this is Who Will Save the $6 Million Man, and my friend had told me, hey, when you get your house, I see a hand in a bird cage. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. Wow. Because she knew how sort of creative I am. And so I was looking for the hand because I found the bird cage, and it was in Tulsa. And my friend was like, oh, well, what about, we were at this thrift store, and she was like, well, what about the $6 Million Man? Nice. Or she was like, what about and we couldn't remember how many millions of dollars he was when we, and so I kind of spoiled the whole end. And the woman at the counter, I was like, how many millions of dollars was he? And she's like, he's only $6. I'm like, no. How many millions? And she just thought I was a little touched. Right. But then I found him, and then I have been collecting these Barbies. My maximum price for Barbies are $1, but if a Barbie's $1 or less, I'll buy her and add her to the Who Will Save the $6 Million Man cage. Most people have a man cave, I have a man cage.
Nice.
I'm Tyson Meade. I had a band called The Finalizing and then a band called the Chainsaw Kittens, and now for the most part, I still do music, but I also am an abstract painter, and I've been making my living painting abstracts.
Yeah, I've seen your work all over the place. Lots of fans of your work.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get to see you paint today, though. Right?
Yeah, we'll get to see me. Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, exactly.
Before we get to any of that, like I do want you to tell me again, like the 20 years, so what happened?
I was saying that, I basically lived out of a suitcase for 20 years. I had my stuff in storage for about 20 years. I think I actually paid for the storage facility probably in that time. Storage facilities, actually, some of them, they changed. One of them here changed ownership like 3 times while I was there. They're like, oh no, we're not. And then at one point, my storage container became like this mystery because I was in China, and it was like this mysterious. They didn't know because it wasn't in their records, and I'm so fortunate that they didn't just
sell your stuff,
sell my stuff.
Yeah.
But so I lived out of a suitcase basically for 20 years, and 2.5 years ago I was in Oklahoma City, and it was just fate that I was looking online and I saw this house for sale, and it was exactly what I'd been looking for.
Yeah.
It was just this dilapidated squatter place with holes in the floor, and the front porch had collapsed, and it was really in sad shape.
Yeah.
But I walked in, and it just sort of like, I don't know, it was sort of glowing, like it had this sort of energy to it that I just saw that there was something about it, not to get hippy dippy, but I just was like, this is exactly what I want. And I'm across the street from Wayne Coyne, who I've known forever, and his nephew, Dennis, who I'm friends with, saw me looking at the place because he was across the street at Wayne's studio, and he's like, hey, what are you doing? And I'm like, hey, I'm looking at this house. And he's like, oh man, and he looked at it with me, and then Matt Duckworth, the drummer who's down the Lips, who plays with me, sometimes plays on my records, he came in, and we were all looking around, and I just, it's just like the perfect size. It wasn't too big and it wasn't too small, and it had, just had this thing about it. And about an hour later, I got a text from Wayne, hey, buy that house. That'd be awesome if you were living next door. And so it was really great because, like, for a while, when I first moved in, Stardust and the White Dwarfs and I were doing some projects together, and they practiced across the street, so I could just walk across the street, and
How easy is that?
And that was so easy. Yeah, I mean, it was like I've lived all over the world, and I come back and I have this, just all of a sudden, this kind of, well, I've always had the community, but it was just like the most convenient, even when I was living in downtown Shanghai, this turned out to be way more convenient than even living like right in the center of the city in Shanghai, which is crazy.
So what is that like? I mean, I've never been.
It was amazing. I fell in love with it. But while I was there, I went from a teacher to running the boarding school because I stayed so long.
Yeah.
I had the easiest job in the world, funnest job, loved the people, but I knew it wasn't what I was supposed to do. I knew I at one point I met this one of my students is a violinist. He was 15 at the time, and he played for me one day, and he had that gift that people have that's like unexplainable. And I was like, I don't want to do music. It's just so frustrating. And then a couple of years went by, we right around that time we recorded a song on my laptop on my MacBook, and it was just a real simple, no microphones, just right into GarageBand, and it just came out really great. He played a bunch of violin parts on this song. It's like, I need to write a song to have him play, and we play, and it just started this sort of magic thing that. But I was still like, I don't want to go back to like being an artist. And then a few of the people, like, well, one person in particular, there's 3 people managing me, but my manager, Johannes Walker, he said at one point, I'll tell you what, if you just do your art, this is what you're supposed to do. I will do everything that you don't want to do that isn't art related, like make sure your bills are paid, make sure this, make sure that, make sure you have a place to live, make sure you have a car to drive. You just need to be creative. And that was one of those things that I decided, if you have this, that's what every artist wants, is someone to come along and say, you should be an artist, and I believe you're the best artist in the world, and I will help you to get wherever you're going.
That feels like a miracle.
It's kind of a miracle. It's like I have a friend who was a model back in the 80s, and she was on, I have 2 friends that were models in the 80s, but one of them, that's my friend Paul, and she was telling me, actually I can't remember which of the 2 models that were, they were both, one was with Ford Modeling Agency, and she was on the covers of like Glamour and stuff like that, and she's like, being a model is like getting hit by lightning. Being a supermodel is like getting hit by lightning twice.
Right,
and so, and so being an artist and being able to, just do stuff like I did in my early life was like getting hit by lightning, but actually getting the opportunity to do it again as an older is like, it's like getting hit by lightning twice. It's kind of that.
So you really feel that.
So I feel just really fortunate, and I just wake up happy and doing my art and painting and just puttering around my house and doing all my crazy stuff to my house, and I just feel so lucky. And the wind and stuff does its own kind of thing, so I like that. Except when it and I have nothing about it, but I really don't. It's kind of like writing a song. When you just do it until you have something, and then you do the end, and then you have a song, That was exactly where I was aiming, but it's all right. Of course, sometimes
That's
I
awesome.
have to try to wash paint out of my hair this morning from yesterday. And then reposition, and I step all over the canvas and everything. Jackson Pollock told me it's okay. Yeah, Jackson Pollock and Francis Bacon, and my main influence, those 2, absolutely, but Don Van Vliet, who was Captain Beefheart.
Oh, yeah.
And those are my 3, my trilogy of painters, or whatever, I guess. But as a youngster, I painted, and I did one of the Kittens covers. I did a painting for our first album, Violent Religion, and I painted here and there, but I paint the way I paint, and so I never really knew anyone. I mean, I'd painted things for people that like they had, people had been like, oh, we want a painting, and I was like, yeah, I'm not a painter, but I'd paint something. And then exactly a year ago, I painted my manager, who, Johannes, one of my managers, Johannes, he said, why don't you start painting again? And I was, I had some downtime, and like, okay. And so I painted, and I just put it up on social media, on Instagram, not for sale or anything, but immediately literally before the paint was even dry, someone was like, I want to buy that, how much?
Wow.
And so, I started at sort of like not that expensive, and then as time, over the past year, the last one I did, was, now my prices are at $4,000 a painting. So I don't do that many at this point because my manager again was like, well, your paintings, you need to, and this is kind of a Jackson Pollock thing, he never sold anything for less than what he thought it was worth, and so I'm thinking, well, I'll hold on to stuff, and if people don't buy it, that's okay, but if I get one person buying something for $4,000 every couple of months, that's definitely enough to, so I don't have to do a bunch of, and people, when I first did it, were like, oh, are you going to get a First Friday, and things like that, and I was like, well, no, I never have, like, because every time I do one, somebody else would want one, and, and like within 2 or 3 paintings, so, they were $1,000 a piece, and then, it was like all of a sudden there were $2,000 a piece, and now they're $4,000 a piece, and I'm kind of like, but then the other thing is it's really difficult for me to part with them because I never, with my songs I can part with them because I can still listen to them, but my paintings I have to go visit them, and they're almost like children, and it's a little difficult.
I do live with you, yeah. You definitely don't want too many children, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, so what kind of paint and like what are the materials? I mean, I see records.
Yeah, records, whatever paint I can find. I just get big buckets of it usually, and I use like the painting that I'm working on now. I swept it some with a broom, and with the paint I have this like straw broom, and I was putting the paint on. I never use a brush, but I'll use a broom. I might use the doll. A doll. I might use like a plastic water bottle and throw it at it, nice. And I don't really think about what I'm doing when I'm doing it, and then all of a sudden it's just done, and I'm like, okay, there we go.
That's the creation process.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. What do you think you're going to work on today?
We'll go outside. I'll have to, and I never remember to do this, but I'll have to. I hardly ever remember to do this, but actually, since I'm not just touching up something where I'm in my clothes that as you can tell from here, I don't know, these aren't like paint jeans, but I'm like, oh, this needs to, and the next thing I know, I'm throwing paint at
right.
And then, all of my clothes become like paint clothes.
I think that these are the only clothes I have that don't have paint on them.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why I'm wearing them today. Can you tell me briefly about like your experience with the different types of bands you were in? Because you were in the Chainsaw Kittens, which is different from like what you've done recently on the laptop with the violin. So what were those other projects?
Well, with the Kittens, it was really, it was fun. It was like a gang of guys that, I love all the guys, and we just had the best time, and Trent Bell is still one of my best friends, if not my best friend in the world. He's just, he is just my best friend. I can call him and I can tell, he's that guy that you can just tell anything to, and he's like, oh, okay, yeah, well, whatever, and, but now, with the way that everything is, the playing field has been leveled more or less, and we used to go to like these big, really expensive studios and do an entire album at the studio. And and when the Kittens did Pop Eris, our album in 1993, we had a $25,000 budget to make a big pop record, and which was great. But now, I can do a lot of what we would do at a studio on my laptop and just plug-ins and just sit a microphone right in the middle of the living room and sing, and I have more freedom to do exactly what I hear in my head, and I'm not like, there are people like, I don't know, like Steven from The Lips, who can just hear something and do it immediately. Me, I hear something, and after about 50 objects have been broken, I can get to the place where I actually am able to do what I'm hearing in my head.
But you are persistent. And
I'm persistent. Yeah, I'm persistent, and like, my voice I can do about anything I want, but my skill level with guitar or keyboards or whatever is like really limited. So I have to, I'll hear it, and then, I'll have to like do it over and over and over until, I get to a place where I'm like, okay, that's, and I keep a few of the little mistakes just because I want that feel that it's not done on a computer.
I absolutely understand what you're talking
about. So it's pretty much full contact.
It's a workout.
And if something doesn't break, you're not doing it right. Then of course at the end there's always the like breather.
Yeah.
And I have no idea what I'm trying to accomplish, but I'm just trying to get at a place that sort of defines itself, I guess, and I'm just the vehicle. I'm not trying to, I'm expressing myself in I want to say primordial, but I don't know, or that it's like kind of like scream therapy, but with painting. And like this one, the big one here, and it also clears my sinuses pretty good usually. And I get these horrible headaches sometimes because I get so involved in the process. And the only thing to me that matters is the process, and then having this souvenir of what I did, So there we have it. I may look at it for a couple of days and decide, okay, is that finished? It'll be stretched at some point, and it'll be on someone's wall. And the energy and the moments and the moment of being, as Virginia Woolf said, where he exists, that will forever be part of this.
It's gorgeous.
Thank you.
Yeah. So how long did it take you to
get to this area?
Yeah.
I had worked on it for like 4 days, and I thought it was done, and then I started working on it again yesterday because I have this piece that's going to Los Angeles to someone, and I'm just beginning on it. It's called We Are the Shadows of the Shadows, and so this one I've been working on for, sometimes it'll take a couple of weeks of just, really, not, I can't do more than, what you just saw at a time. But then I'll take a rest and I'll be ready to go again.
That's a gorgeous process.
It's really, I feel like I'm just trying to get, like with my music, I don't know the rules, but I do know the rules. I know there's verse, chorus, and you can do verse, chorus, or you can choose not to do verse, chorus. But with painting, I don't know the rules, and I'm trying to figure out how to get to that place that like Pollock and like Francis Bacon and like Don Van Vliet from Captain Beefheart, what they were doing. I'm trying to channel that muse or that place, that energy from the universe that is getting me to the next level, and each one that I've done has surpassed the one before. And I know there are some people that are going to be like, well, that's just a bunch of, that's nothing. That's just a bunch of like, whatever, paint just spilled on a canvas, and anybody can do that. And maybe anybody could. I don't know. I'm not going to say that they can't. Because maybe anybody could do it, but, I'm the one doing it, and the universe seems to kind of smile at me when I do it. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to keep doing it.
Yeah. How do you feel when you finish a piece?
Once I give it the presentation to the person, I'm always really nervous. Like, are they gonna, I've never had anyone go, I don't really get it. Everyone so far, like a lot of times people will get really teary-eyed and they'll just, it'll be really emotional. Like I had a friend who bought a painting, not too long ago, and it was a friend's wife, actually. She's my friend too, but she wanted the love that she'd given to her. She had some pets that had, passed on, and she's like, I don't want the dog, I don't want their faces, I don't want painting like that, because I know you do abstract, but I want that feeling. And when I gave it to her, she was able to see all of her pets' faces in it, and she saw her father's cane, who had passed away. And she she was happy, but she just broke down in tears because somehow I had brought that dimension to her, which I don't say that, I'm bringing other dimensions to people, but if they find other dimensions in my paintings, I feel like, okay, I've been a success. And I know, like, people, watching this is going to be, what? A bunch of hippy-dippy stuff. And maybe it is. I don't know. But so far, I've really, I'm in love with painting. I'm in love with this, like, non-intellectual. I see it as totally a non-intellectual. I mean, you can make it intellectual, but it's a non-intellectual, more emotional, grasp or embracing of painting. I have, I have friends that do the art world thing and, manage galleries, and I'll go to their galleries, and they're like these cool little hip galleries where you just have to think so much to, like, there's a string hanging from a little stick, and that's, a painting, and I'm like, no. That's a ripoff. That's like a total, like John Lennon when he first met Yoko Ono, and he had to climb the rickety ladder, and there was that. You looked at this card and it said yes, and that speaks more like the positive. Just this is. We can look at the positive, and I think when I paint, I have like a lot of positive energy going on. And I hope that comes through. It's almost like a little puzzle where you see all these things going on. Like with this one, you have this detail right here, that could be about anything. And sometimes I feel like I've commandeered a Basquiat and I've just like totally painted over the top of it, with my wackiness.
That's a great notion as well. There's a lot of texture on this.
Yeah, I just feel like, I just like have these buckets of paint in my paint broom, which I just started using yesterday. I saw it in the yard, and it's not really good for sweeping, but it sure is good for painting, and just like, now I can do this kind of stuff. Really, you would think that of me, and then you have this whole effect. And I can save you. And I know my neighbors, because I'm in such a, working class neighborhood, that people are like, what the hell is going on? I've had people, slow down and go, you're being abusive to that canvas. You be nice to that canvas. And I'm like, I can't help it. I'm not being. It loves hard love.
It's into that stuff.
It's into that. It's like bondage, S&M canvas,
Yeah, I have its consent.
I totally have its consent. I wrangled it to the ground or to a tree or wherever, and it's absolutely, completely docile now.
Yeah. Did you ever think you'd be a painter when you were a kid?
No, I never did. I was never really encouraged in art. I think one teacher once, when everyone was painting a still life, and just by my crudeness of not knowing how to paint pastel, mine was really dark and brooding, and she's like, wow, and she really loved it, but it's like, yeah, that wasn't what I was going for, and it was kind of sad because I could never execute, like there's people who can, have a photograph and they can paint exactly what the photograph is, and then as I got older I realized, well, that's, you can just blow up a photograph to any size you want, so why would you even want to do that other than to prove that you can, which I think that's great too, but I think not that many people can do this and know. I mean, I'm involved, but I'm uninvolved. I don't really think when I'll sit back and I'll look and I'll see like a little place and I'm like, yeah, that needs some attention. And I'll all of a sudden throw like a quart of paint on it and it's like, yeah, that I gave it some attention.
It did need that.
They did need that. And then I'll be like, oh man, I messed the entire thing up. And I'll, but a lot of times now, things start and they just go and go and go and then they're finished and I'm like, okay, like with today I didn't really even think that I was going to add this to it. Now I'm like so happy I did because it really changes the whole feeling of it, and when you get it stretched on the wall, things that sometimes they stay in it and sometimes they fall off. And that's part of the nature of it, like literally part of the nature.
Do you ever go check out the plaza at all?
Yeah, I do. I go to Empire Slice. That's one of my main hangs. It was like I'd go there about every day or every other day for a while, and then I was like, well, maybe I'll just buy groceries are a little healthier.
Right.
And not eat pizza all the time, even though I could eat pizza every day and have no problem.
I literally came from Empire over to your house.
Yeah, Empire is like, they put crackers or something in that pizza.
They kept trying to give me free pizza. I was sitting there eating my first piece, and my only piece, and they kept like, well, we got too many pieces of this, do you want one? I was like, no, I can't eat that. And then like 5 minutes later, we're like, well, we have too many pieces, like, do you want one? Like,
no.
Well, so like, can you tell me about China and stuff, and like what like, I don't know, like the difference between art culture there and here, and were you influenced by it, or? Yeah,
I think so, in a way, I think in a way I became even more American by being there. Like, a small example is songs that I could never wanted to listen to. When I moved there, they became so out of reach, or they became, you know, like I don't know, Stairway to Heaven or Pink Floyd songs, I would play them for Chinese students who had never heard them, and it was cool to just see that clicking in their mind of them hearing like Wish You Were Here, Stairway to Heaven, or like oh, Misty Mountain Hop by Zeppelin, where, you know, I had him fill in the blanks, and Robert Plant at some point says baby, baby, baby 3 times, and when he said it the 3rd time, there was a baby, baby, and then they're waiting for the next word, and they're like, why would he say baby 3 times? And so that was really cool to introduce them to things and reintroduce myself to things like that, to, you know, things that had just the radio or whatever, or you know, our modern society had sort of run because we hear it just so much, and it's like it didn't have the magic that it once had when I first heard it, you know, as a kid. Then moving to China, I'd hear it again, and the magic would be back, and so I think I was really ready to move to another country. I mean, I had, you know, you could throw politics or whatever on it, but really I think I was just ready to see something new, and China was, and they live so simply, and I thought, oh, you know, that's really, I love how they just, I mean, the be a little extravagant, but just common people, they live very simple lives, and they seem to be happy. Back to the simplicity of it, of like just going to the local market, or, you know, local fruit stand or whatever to get my food, or going to a noodle shop and having noodles for like $1, for less than $1, you know, and just all of the things that, just such a simple, you don't really have to worry, I didn't have to worry about anything, and people kind of took care of me. And then back to the, you know, moved back here, and so my manager takes care of me now, which is really my manager's, and truly my manager, Johannes. But yeah, I think I came away from China really appreciating the really great things about America, because people there would be like, why'd you come here? America's so great, why would you come to China? It's so dirty. And I'm like, well, you know, I just wanted to see, and then I met the people. And the thing, I guess the most magical thing about China is the people. I just love the people, and they just love us. I mean, they were the best hosts, and I've heard some heartbreaking things about China, that, well, maybe we'll go to war, and we don't. That's the last thing we want. We don't want to alienate them, because they really do. Whatever sort of political differences, I think we could always work out. And they don't want to change us. They love America the exact way it is, you know, and a lot of them want to come to America because you really have the opportunity, if you truly, and I think, you know, Obama was a example of that. If you truly want to live the American dream, you can, you know. Yeah. And so, and I'm living my own American dream of, I'm an artist, and I can wake up and just paint every day if I want, or I can, you know, work on my sculptures, or which I haven't started yet, or I can work on my record, you know, or whatever. And I do have a new record coming out that I'm going to finish in LA at Boulevard Recording with my friend David Innermergluck, Emmy, who he's a pal of mine, that he's in the Counting Crows, but he just is an encyclopedia of music, and his friend owns Boulevard Recording, which has been different names over the years, but it was where Fleetwood Mac mixed rumors, and where Pink Floyd did their whatever they did in America on the wall. That's where they were, and Carly Simon did hotcakes there. And so I'm excited to, I haven't worked at a big like LA studio since '93, so it's been 23 years.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and that's when we did Pop Eris, so. That's
a totally different lifetime.
Yeah.
Do you have any notion of what the album's gonna be like?
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be, there's You know, there's one, like, just an example of one song, the first song that I sent to Emmy, and he sent it back. I was like, yeah, I want this, like, to be if John Lennon during the Help sessions walked into Led Zeppelin 3 via a time machine, and then at the end of this song, they all got into a fist fight with the Pixies and Ricky Lee Jones.
Wow.
And he sent it back, and that's exactly what it sounded like.
Oh my God, that's incredible. To have somebody who can work with those words.
Yeah, and he knows, like, if I say, oh, I want this to sound like Van de Graaff Generator, or I want this to sound like, you know, some Noi, or some like krautrock band, or some British band, or some, you know, like Syd Barrett or whatever, and he can just, he knows exactly what I'm talking about. So he, you know, it's exciting that we're going to, you know, finish my record with this guy who's so knowledgeable and is like so talented.
Are you gonna have a release party here in the city as well?
We'll probably have some sort of release party. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure.
What are you thinking, like actually performing, or just like you walking around and talking to people and having them listen over speakers?
I don't know. I actually want to do something kind of fun, and, you know, like, I might perform a few songs, but yeah, some kind of party. Yeah.
You should just have everybody come over here and build your statues.
Yeah, exactly. That could be really cool. I'll just play the music out of, yeah, that's not a bad idea. Come build a statue with Tyson. Totally Tom Sawyer. I love that. Anytime I can get people to do stuff, that's awesome.
You want to whitewash? It's fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
No, you can't do it. No, you shouldn't.
No, you can't. Yeah, you don't. You're not. It's not. What you're doing is not speaking to me. I'm sorry, you can't do it.
That's hilarious. So, did you actually like make any art outside of music when you were younger?
I did, you know, and I would do, you know, little shrines and stuff, and do a lot of, you know, I'd do it here and there, but I never saw it as being a vehicle for truly expressing myself until, you know, the last few years. And I'd done some paintings I did a painting for a friend for his wedding, and it was sort of the start of what I'm doing now. And one of his wife's, who's also my friend, of course, his wife's sister and other people, every time they see it, they, you know, I think people were really taken by it. And so she was actually, his wife's sister was the one that when I posted something on Instagram, she's like, I want to buy it, how much, you know? And then, so I never really thought, you know, because I, you know, I'd paint here and there, and my method is so like, you know, I also didn't want to open doors where people were like, well, I want you to paint me a turtle. I'm like, well, that's not really what I do, you know? And I've had to explain that to people who don't know me, who see me just out here, and they don't know that I'm actually selling my paintings. They'll be like, oh, you know, could you? And I'm like, yeah, no, I can't. Sorry, that's not what I do.
My cat, I want you to paint my cat.
Yeah, can you paint my cat? Yeah, I've had people say, yeah, can you paint my cat? You know.
That's great. Are there people around I mean, you could tell me in other cities too, but like, is there anybody around in Oklahoma City that you enjoy seeing their artwork or whatever?
Oh, wow. Oh, yes, of course. Matt Code. I love what he does because we're totally at ends of the spectrum. He's very definitive about what he does, and very he knows exactly what I think he pretty much knows what the end result is going to be from the beginning, you know, which I think is cool that someone has that sort of, they can do that. I can't, and I admire that he can do that. And the other person is my friend Aaron Frisbee in Stillwater. He does these really incredible collages and he went to Korea for an art exchange at one point a couple of years ago, and did these really great sort of just very provocative Korean women, you know, that I thought were just really impressive. I love his stuff. Matt's really busy, and Aaron's pretty busy too, but I've wanted Aaron to come to my house and just with a Sharpie marker just start doing whatever on walls, and because I think both of them have the potential to be world renowned.
Do you ever do anything else in the city outside of like art, like that's project based, like I don't know, like
I thought about it and I try it, like I've done music so long that it just there's nothing. I like to just kind of get in and get out, and like with a band, there's I absolutely don't have any desire to have a band or whatever at this point, maybe later, but I think the other thing is that since I had was tied to 3 or 4 guys for so long in a band, I finally like doing something completely on my own. So I don't really even socialize that much because it's just so nice to have this complete freedom of not having to really, and the Kittens, we all got along and it was great and I love all those guys, but there's no, like with what I do now, it's just, I can just totally get into my own head, and that's, I am really thankful for that.
Yeah, that's amazing. Do you feel like this is, the painting thing is gonna be forever? Like,
I think, I think it could be. It's weird because I didn't even know I was going to, but the way people react to it, unless I all of a sudden my style or whatever becomes obsolete or archaic or something, I think painting, because it's always everything, it's always brand new, and it's never, nothing's ever like, oh, that's kind of like the one I did before, because none of them, you can tell that it's me.
Okay, so you said a couple days, 3 days. How long does it take you to finish it again?
Well, the first one, believe it or not, I did, and I did in like an afternoon, like I just did it like full speed, and because I just wanted to get something down. And then when people started buying them, it was like, oh, I can't just do this in an afternoon. So I spread it over, and also they just became a lot more saturated, and they have a lot more, like now the newer, more expensive ones have just a lot of depth, I think. And I was telling the guy that's buying this big one, I was like, I thought it was finished, but I just want to give it, I just want it to have really scream with just depth. And I know you would have liked it, but I really want it to have, just like when you look at it, you just can get lost in the solar system of it.
Yeah, gotcha.
That's what I'm always looking for. And I gotta get it while the getting's good. Okay, I'm gonna get a big thing of it.
Nice!
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Okay, so yeah.
That's kick-ass. And I can see where the 2 colors are mixing right there.
Yeah, and they'll do their thing.
It's dripping.
And you see how up here it has all this just, that it has this action going on.
Yeah.
And
it like matures.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it, man. So do you name them or no?
Yeah, I name them. Actually, if you want to follow me,
sure.
I'll show you what I do. That's one of the most important things. Is like for this one here, I usually wait until it's totally finished, but I saw the story while I was doing it, and I'll have to run and get it, and I'll bring it out.
Oh, okay.
Since I write songs and I'm a writer, not at the beginning, but like halfway, or maybe 4 or 5 paintings in, I started writing these. It's stream of consciousness. And so that one will be called We Are the Shadows of the Shadows. And then I write whatever comes into my head just immediately. And then I present this to the person at the same time. And I give them this, and then I show them the painting.
That's hard to, that touches my heart.
It's one of those things that it just like hit me. It's like, oh, you know, I can't really tell them the story, and the only way I can tell it is by writing it. And then they'll have it, and they can frame it, they can put it in the drawer, they can have it as like this talisman.